Hi guys, we've got a special guest here today, first rate tutors, and we're going to go through 5 key quotations that you can use for most questions when answering your Macbeth question in the up and coming exam. Okay?
Yes. Okay, so we're going to go through the 5 key quotations, and of course, based on these quotations, what you can talk about in terms of context and themes. So Stacey, take it away.
I'm going to start with this one from the opening. Obviously you should know Act 1, we want to look at our tragic hero. So we've got fault and ambition, condense the quotation here to get in over leaps. There's a couple of things here before I dissect the quotation. It's going to cover obviously the tragic hero in the opening, it's going to cover ambition, it's going to cover as the foreshadowing of his downfall. When we look at this reference, alright, we've put fall here in red because it is actually like preempting the fall, and every time we write about Macbeth, somewhere in our response we do need key terms like tragic hero. If we're pitching for a grade 9, we might use some of Aristotle's terms from Greek tragedy. The thing about fault and ambition is really interesting because actually it's a horseplay reference from Shakespearean England. So we get a couple of horseplay references from Shakespeare if we're looking for 7 through 9 and want to move around, and the other one is to trammel up, so I'll come to that in just a second. But basically the way, it sounds daft, but the way people would get onto a horse during Shakespearean England is they would jump onto the back of it, and it would be called vaulting onto the horse. Now you can well imagine if I was jumping on the back of a horse right now, one of a couple of things is going to happen. It's going to jerk back, I will fall off, and or the horse is going to move away and I'm going to fall. Hence the falling of the tragic hero is given to you in this like animal reference. Again, people going for full mark response will get quite a lot of animal references throughout. The trammel up, if we're just moving a little bit forward when he says to trammel up the consequence, trammel up means that you would tie the horse's front legs and back legs together so that it couldn't ever get away. I'm not doing that reference now, but there's quite a lot you can see about that in terms of how he doesn't want to feel guilt and he doesn't want to feel certain things, which I suppose parallels Lady Macbeth to a certain degree. The overleaping reference we know is going to get us our divine right of kings, which I know we're going to go into in a moment, and this idea of changing position and the punishment that will follow. So again, this idea of the fatal flaw, yeah, the excessive hubris, the hamartia is all given to you in that opening reference.
That's
all
awesome.
right, guys.
Awesome. So the second quotation, Lady Macbeth states, "Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it." Obviously, I've used some ellipsis here. You can shorten it to just simply "look like the innocent flower, serpent under it." Now, this quotation is really powerful because firstly, what it's illustrating about Lady Macbeth's character is how much of a duplicitous character she is, right? And one of the things that Shakespeare wants to illustrate to his audience, and especially, this play was first performed to the court of King James, is this notion of never trusting appearances completely, right? Because it can be used to deliberately manipulate and deceive you. But also, this quotation is really powerful when it comes to context, right? So of course, the central driving idea behind Macbeth is it's about this story and warning of the dangers of violating divine right of kings. A lot of Jacobeans at the time believed that God had given the king direct power to rule, and of course usurping him, so overthrowing him or even killing him, committing regicide, was a sin directly against God. Now of course, Lady Macbeth, when she's advising Macbeth to look like the innocent flower but be a serpent, she's advising him to use his appearances in order to win King Duncan's trust and then betray him after winning his trust, right? So this quotation is perfect when you're getting any character quotes relating to Lady Macbeth, Macbeth's character, but also if you're answering a question on ambition, or even, for instance, anything relating to guilt and so on, okay? So this is a really, really powerful quotation, and it can be used for both characters, but also themes.
Moving down, we're going to come to the witches. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this week comes. It's a little bit later on in the text because naturally we have to cover the full range if we can. And supernatural reference, there's a few things we want to do if we're really getting involved in this video. The thumb reference, okay, if you put your thumb in between your fingers there, it was believed in the Shakespearean period of time when Macbeth was written, that if you'd done that it would ward away a witch. So what we can see here is that the transformation of Macbeth means that the witches are like, oh my god, what's coming towards us, and they are in turn frightened of the very thing that they created. And what's going to happen to our tragic hero here, if we look closely at the language Shakespeare chooses to use, is that he's been transformed into a thing. So if you were to just chart the character arc of Macbeth, you will see that at the beginning we know the obvious reference about brave and noble, but as we get here, he is a thing and then he's going to be like a tyrant. So Shakespeare uses nouns as well that quite I suppose aptly show you his change and this idea that he is something wicked. Well, wicked again if we're talking about supernatural, we're talking about witches. Wicked comes from Wiccan, which comes from witches. So you've got all of this kind of language embroiled around Macbeth and what they have been able to do, which obviously links back to James I in his etymology book, doesn't it? And the idea that he thought a witch was trying to kill him. So again, decent line. Aim and high, you've got a different meter there. So the witches speak in that rhyme scheme, don't they? That Macbeth and Lady Macbeth don't speak in, and they have shorter syllables. If you want the grade 9 stuff, obviously check both of our channels for that, which is called the trochaic meter. All right.
Okay, so the fourth quotation, which you can use in any Macbeth essay, is actually in the infamous scene in Act 5, Scene 1, where Lady Macbeth goes crazy, the nurse is called, and then the doctor comes in and he realises that Lady Macbeth's craziness, her sleepwalking, is something that's well beyond him. Now, of course, usually the more straightforward quote to use from this scene is "out damn spot, out I say." This is when Lady Macbeth is having these hallucinations. But an even more powerful quotation, which not only is illustrating Lady Macbeth's sense of guilt once she realizes, you know, all of the horrible things that she's caused, but equally the doctor realizing that she's beyond redemption, is when he says, "This disease is beyond my practice." Now here, what this quotation is illustrating is that the doctor realizes, because remember that Lady Macbeth, when she's having these sleepwalking and these hallucinations, and when she basically talks about these spots of blood that she sees, she's basically confessing what she's done. And so the doctor then realizes that what she's experiencing is madness caused by God's own punishment, and this is some disease. Okay, so this disease is something that only a higher power can help. And this actually ties really, really nicely back to Lady Macbeth earlier in the play, when she does say, "Look like the innocent flower, be the serpent under it," to advise Macbeth to violate divine right of kings, because we now see the consequences of her actions coming full circle. It now becomes a horrible sin that she's influenced Macbeth to commit, that now is something that only God can cleanse her of. And of course, Lady Macbeth realizes that she's beyond redemption. Okay, so this is a really, really powerful quotation. You can obviously go for the "out damn spot, out I say," but this is even more useful, okay, because lots of students will go for "out damn spot," but this, you can still make the same points, but illustrate also your awareness of divine right of kings and her violation coming full circle.
Very end, we're going to go to Act 5 now. Just from experience, marking exam papers, we tend, I see we as like a collective, not to know the end as well in terms of analytical ability. So we've got these juggling things, no more believed, and we've again just shortened it there to talk about double speak. What's hugely important here is Macbeth has already referenced them as the juggling things in Act 4, as if like to acknowledge what has occurred. We've got a couple of ideas. See this image of like juggling, the fact that they've played with his morality, his conscience, his ambition, as we've discussed earlier, and what they've done with the military soldier and what they've kind of transformed him into. Fiends is an interesting one, because if we're talking divine right of kings, which we've mentioned a couple of times, you're talking about the opposite of that. So like, for instance, the divine right of evil, if you like, and where Satan would be pitched at the top and the fiends would be underneath doing his, can I say, evil work. So the juggling fiends is like the verbal recognition of like evil coming to full fruition, and we can go all the way back to Satan if we need to here. The idea that the deception, I've mentioned a couple of times, it shouldn't have been believed, it's not, what they tell us isn't actually true, is it really, if we're talking about fate. But this double speak is interesting as well, because what we can get is the references every time they say the word double. If you chart again Shakespeare's use, you get he's here and don't trust, when we get that at the beginning, and we get double toil and trouble, again Shakespeare playing on the word bubble, because it should be double bubble. So by telling us double, we've always got deception wrapped up and lies being wrapped up in what has occurred to, I suppose, Macbeth, and to some degree Lady Macbeth, although she takes it on herself. So this is an interesting one. Not many students reference that as well if we're answering the witches, because we'll do more obvious things like heal Macbeth. So again, gets the end in quite a judicious way. Okay.
Awesome. So guys, thank you so much, and of course, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you head over to First Rate Tutors for a follow-up video on
Inspector Gold.
Inspector Gold.
Thanks for your time, guys.